Hi, I'm Izzul Aniq and welcome. 5 to 10 years ago, students such as me wouldn't be able to have this kind of technologies inside our pockets. It's very easily accessible. As a student in this current generation, I wouldn't shamelessly admit that I'm very dependent on technologies these days. I could use it for the purpose of communication, education, traveling, and many other stuff. This shows how technologies have emerged and becoming more important in life. Let's look into the future. According to Schwab, his research said that through the 4IR, robotics, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, quantum technology, nanotechnology, and many more fancy words. This is in order to infuse technologies in our daily lives, in order to make our lives better in the ways that we could never think of. Looking in the context of Malaysia, we are also not left out by developing 4IR policies in order for us to become better. This industrial revolution has been introduced by Datuk Sri Najib Razak through Transformasi Nasional 2050, or more known as TN50. And what he envisioned was to create an opportunity for citizens for them to prosper in the economically developed country. I believe autonomous learning is going to be an important part in the 4IR, where technologies are always going to be available and surrounding us. Before we dive in deeper, let's look into the concept of autonomous learning that was introduced by Henry Holleck in 1979 through his book Autonomy in Foreign Language Learning. What he suggests through this is that learners have the ability to take power of their own learning. What he means by this is that the learners are able to take charge of what they learn, how they learn, the objectives, their goals, their methods, thus making them learning easier and also learning tailored to their needs. So why is autonomous learning very important? Today, what we can look at are children. Children have been using technologies as early as the age of 2 or maybe earlier. And this creates a generation which are very literate in technologies but also very dependent on them. And if education could not able to keep up with the current technology, there will be a need for them to learn traditionally, which will be ineffective or not making use of the technologies available, and this is such a waste. What we know about traditional methods, it is very learner-centered. And to make sense of all the benefits that surround us through technologies, it is best for us to learn autonomously, where students are able to learn wherever they want and what they want. Through learning this way, it will not constrict the creativity and the ability of the student. Learners are able to take advantage and cope with current job needs, and it is presumed that jobs in the future will be heavily dependent on technologies, and if the students are not making use of it, they will be left behind. The first problem that presents is that autonomous learning is not going to develop itself. The students will not be able to develop autonomous learning just because the teachers told them to. What are the initiatives that could be taken by the teachers in order for them to develop autonomous learning? As suggested by Little in 1991, what he said was teachers can actually negotiate with the students in order for them to understand what their goals are, their learning strategy. This could be achieved by the interpretation of the syllabus with the students. However, as simple as this may seem, it does not change the fact that there's going to be a change in the power structure between teachers and students, thus making there's a different role in teaching in the classroom. This is because the teachers who are trained in the traditional method are going to face problems where there's a transition of power from purveyor of information to counselor and managing of learning resources. Back to the context of technologies again. Cardo and Galson 2003 said that teachers' acceptance of technology is very important in the context of the 4IR. In the 4IR, it's presumed that technology is going to be everywhere. So the teachers are going to need to be able to use the materials that are around them. And this brings the problem of teachers' readiness. Now it comes to question, at what stage are students actually ready for autonomous learning? Most experts believe that in order for students to be able to adapt with autonomous learning, they need to develop maturity before actually they will able to use them. As suggested by Little, again, it is said that autonomous learning should be introduced to the students as early as the primary level of education. This will actually help the students in shaping their ability for them to have skills in problem-solving context in social interaction. It is said that If autonomous learning is introduced to the children at the second stage of their education, this will bring them to the problem where the students have developed this understanding where the need of education is for the purpose of qualification. And if autonomous learning is introduced to them at third level education, by this time it's already too late because the students have developed their rigid understanding in what learning is. If this trend continues to grow, this will create a generation which will be prone to autonomous learning. So, how do we solve this issue? According to Pichakova in 2016, firstly, it is important to lay out what is the needs and goals of the learning for students. Next, with the fast pace of globalization, the learners will need support. The supports can come from the teachers, parents, and even government. Government should update their policies and goals in education that fits the needs of the 4th IR. Next, in order for students to excel in learning autonomously, the students need to be able to understand their learning strategies. Lastly, in autonomous learning, with the shift of roles between teachers and students, students need to be able to adapt better and interact better in classroom, while teachers need to understand their roles and know how to make use of these roles in classrooms. As a person who is a tech head, which is another keyword for nerd, I am very excited to know how technologies is going to impact our education, especially in the English language. I hope you have been able to learn autonomously through this video. See you later.